What if I told you the world you live in is merely a consequence of a series of catastrophic failures? A single slip of the tongue, a misread map, or a moment of sheer arrogance, these aren't just footnotes in history books, they are the true architects of our current reality. History is a violent, chaotic tapestry woven from the frayed threads of human error. It's unsettling, isn't it? To think that empires rose and fell not because of grand designs, or the inevitable march of destiny, but because someone simply didn't pay attention, or because a messenger tripped on a staircase. We often imagine history as a calculated, linear march of geniuses, philosophers, and conquerors. But the truth is much darker, much messier, and infinitely more fragile. It's a sequence of blunders, near misses, and silent tragedies that were never meant to happen, yet define the trajectory of our species. We're going to pull back the heavy, velvet curtain on these moments, where one bad choice erased millions of lives and rewritten the maps of our world. But before we dive into the abyss, ask yourself, how many times have you been seconds away from a disaster without even knowing it? The silence of history is deceptive. It masks the chaos. Let's begin. Our first descent into the shadows takes us to the battlefield, where the stakes are life and death, and the room for error is non-existent. Military history is littered with the literal corpses of men who believed they were untouchable. Take the charge of the Light Brigade during the Crimean War. A simple miscommunication, a vague, poorly worded order sent by a commander, Lord Raglan, to a subordinate who couldn't even see the tactical layout of the battlefield, sent hundreds of British cavalrymen riding straight into the mouth of Russian cannons. It was a suicide mission born from ego, a lack of clarity, and a rigid adherence to hierarchy that ignored the reality on the ground. But that wasn't even the worst part. The arrogance of leaders often blinds them to the most obvious of dangers. Think of Napoleon's march into Russia in 1812. He didn't just lose a battle, he lost an entire army, nearly 500,000 men, to the unforgiving Russian winter, a detail he blatantly ignored in his hubris, believing his sheer presence could bend the climate to his will. The freezing cold, the starvation, the endless white silence, it wasn't just a military failure, it was a psychological collapse of leadership. Napoleon, a man who had mastered Europe, was defeated by the temperature. And then something even more disturbing happened. These errors weren't isolated incidents. They were systemic, repeating patterns of hubris that define human conflict throughout the ages. From the disastrous tactical failures at Gallipoli in World War I, where commanders ignored the topography of the cliffs, to the disastrous intelligence reports that fueled the Iraq War, we see a recurring theme, the refusal to acknowledge the truth until the bodies are already piling up. Why do we keep making the same mistakes? Is it a flaw in our biological wiring, or is it the inherent nature of power to breed a specific kind of blindness? Throughout history, power has consistently acted as a blinder, narrowing the vision of those at the top until they can only see what they want to believe. As we move from the battlefield to the boardroom of nations, the scale of disaster shifts. Accidents that changed countries aren't always born from war or direct combat. Sometimes, it's a chemical leak, a reactor meltdown, or a simple, fatal miscalculation in a trade agreement that brings a nation to its knees. Look at Chernobyl. It wasn't just a reactor failure, it was a deep, systemic corruption of safety protocols that had been ignored for years by a Soviet bureaucracy that valued appearance over reality. The world held its breath as a cloud of invisible radiation drifted across borders, turning towns into ghost cities. The silence in Pripyat today is the loudest evidence of human error. It's a chilling reminder that our modern infrastructure is brittle. A few buttons pushed in the wrong order, a bypass safety alarm, and a region is poisoned for centuries. But that's not all. Consider the financial crashes that have bankrupted millions, like the 2008 global economic collapse. These aren't natural disasters. They are the result of greed, hubris, and profound incompetence, hidden behind complex, opaque algorithms and men in expensive suits. When a system built entirely on trust collapses due to a single oversight, a failure to account for subprime mortgage risk, the shockwaves aren't just economic, they are existential. People lose their livelihoods, their homes, their dignity, all because someone in a high-rise office didn't care enough to check the math or question the underlying stability of the market. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other ticking time bombs are we living on right now? We like to think we're in control, that our systems are fail-safe, but these failures prove we're just passengers on a runaway train. The human mind is capable of incredible feats, but it is also profoundly susceptible to fatigue, confirmation bias, and catastrophic lapses in judgment. Take the Challenger space shuttle tragedy in 1986. 7 lives, lost in seconds, all because a rubber O-ring couldn't handle the freezing temperatures on the morning of the launch. The engineers knew it was a risk, they voiced their concerns, but the internal pressure to launch, the culture of silence, and the desperate desire to succeed blinded them to the reality of physics. It's a terrifying thought: the most advanced technology humanity has ever created was undone by a simple, cheap piece of rubber. This isn't just about technical failure, it's about the psychology of go fever. The psychological need to push forward regardless of the warning signs is a deadly, universal human trait. We've seen it in aviation crashes, in medical mistakes where surgeons operate on the wrong limb, and in the way we handle global pandemics, ignoring the early warnings until the sirens are screaming. We're wired to ignore the quiet alarms until they're deafening. And the most disturbing part is how common these human errors are. We're all capable of them. It's not just the leaders, it's the guy at the control desk, the engineer in the lab, the pilot in the cockpit. We are all prone to the same fatal flaws of inattention and optimism bias. And then there are the tiny, almost invisible mistakes. The ones that don't look like much at the time but have consequences that echo for centuries. Think about the maps of the Middle East, drawn by colonial powers in the wake of the First World War with a pen and a ruler, completely ignoring the complex religious and tribal realities on the ground. Those lines, drawn in a moment of imperial arrogance, have fueled conflict for over 100 years, creating borders that have never known peace. It was a small, administrative error that birthed a century of war. Or consider the discovery of penicillin, which only happened because Alexander Fleming was notoriously messy and left a petri dish uncovered in his lab. If he had been a tidy, disciplined person, the mold would never have contaminated the sample, and millions might have died from simple, preventable infections. This is the duality of error: sometimes it destroys, sometimes it creates. But the destruction is always more permanent and pervasive. We are living in a reality defined by the butterfly effect. A small decision in a room in 1914 led to the trenches of the First World War. A missed telegram changed the borders of the Americas. It's a fragile, terrifying chain of causality. If we could go back and fix these errors, would the world be better? Or would we just be trading one set of disasters for another, perhaps even worse? Perhaps these mistakes are the price we pay for being human. Maybe the chaos is the only way we learn, though the cost is often paid in blood. We look at the world today, the polarized politics, the climate crisis, the looming, undefined threats of artificial intelligence, and we have to ask, are we currently committing the errors that will define the next century? We're standing on the precipice of history, just like those before us, and we are just as prone to the same blind spots. The weight of the past is heavy, but the weight of our potential mistakes is heavier. Every day, we make thousands of tiny choices. Most don't matter. But some, if we're not careful, will rewrite the human story in ways we can't even imagine. We must stay curious, we must stay vigilant, and we must constantly question the truths we are told by those in power. The shadows are long, and the path is narrow. The errors of the past are lessons, but only if we have the courage to look at them without blinking. We've explored the military, the industrial, the psychological, and the microscopic. We've seen how the world shifts on the axis of a single blunder. But the story never really ends. It just transforms. Each generation inherits the wreckage of the last and tries to build something new, often making the same mistakes under different names. It's a cycle of tragedy and progress, a dance with disaster that we've been performing since the dawn of time. Are we getting better at avoiding these catastrophes? Or are we just getting better at hiding them? The truth is likely somewhere in the middle, buried in the archives and the memories of those who lived through the fallout. As we look toward the future, we carry the ghosts of these errors with us. They are our map, our warning, and our burden. And yet, despite everything, we keep moving forward. We keep building, we keep reaching, and we keep failing. It is the fundamental human condition. There are still countless mysteries left to discover, and perhaps, the next great era is already in motion, waiting to be revealed by time. Do you ever wonder if your current job, your current relationship, or your current city is a product of a series of accidents you'll never even know about? The world is not a grand, orchestrated play. It is an improvised performance on a stage that is constantly crumbling. Every time a bridge collapses, a stock market craters, or a peace treaty fails, it is a reminder that the structures we rely on are only as strong as the human beings who maintain them. And human beings are, by definition, flawed. We are prone to distraction, to emotional volatility, and to the seductive trap of believing we have everything under control. We look at the past and see inevitability, but the people who lived through those moments saw only confusion and uncertainty. We must learn to see the cracks in the foundation before the building comes down. The lesson of history is not that we are doomed, but that we are fragile. We are the architects of our own destruction, and yet, we are the only ones capable of building something that lasts. The question remains, will we learn, or are we destined to repeat the cycle until there is nothing left to break? The weight of the future is on our shoulders, and the margin for error is shrinking every single day. We are the sum of every mistake ever made, yet we stand here, still striving. That is the true, haunting beauty of the human narrative. We fall, we break, and yet we continue to reach for the stars. Every failure is a brick in the wall of our collective knowledge, a silent testament to the fact that we were here and we tried. The next century will be defined by how we handle the errors of our own making. Will we be the generation that broke the cycle, or just another footnote in the long, dark history of human blunders? The answer lies in the choices we make tomorrow, in the quiet moments where we decide whether to double down on our pride or to admit when we are wrong. It is a choice that defines everything. The shadows of the past are long, but the light of our awareness is the only thing that can keep us from falling into the abyss. We are the architects of our reality, for better or for worse. Let us hope we learn to build with a little more caution and a little more humility. The path forward is treacherous, but we are the ones who must walk it. We must look back at these catastrophes, not with fear, but with a cold, clear-eyed understanding of what happens when we lose our way. The history of the world is a history of mistakes, but it is also a history of resilience. We are still here. We are still learning. And in that, perhaps, there is a glimmer of hope. We are all just one bad decision away from changing the world, and that is a power that should both terrify and inspire us. So, as you move through your day, look around. See the fragility in the systems around you. Understand that the stability you take for granted is an illusion held together by the constant, exhausting effort of keeping error at bay. Stay vigilant. Stay skeptical. And above all, stay aware of the shadows that lurk behind every decision. The story of humanity is written in the blood of our failures, but it is also written in the ink of our persistent, stubborn will to survive. We are all architects of history, one mistake at a time. The descent into the shadows is complete, but the journey forward has only just begun. What you do with this knowledge is entirely up to you. Will you be the one who repeats the past, or the one who breaks the cycle? The future is not written yet, but the ink is drying. Be careful where you place your mark. The world is watching, even if it doesn't know it yet. History is a mirror, and if you look closely enough, you might just see your own reflection in the ruins of the past. It is a daunting prospect, but it is the reality we live in. We are the keepers of the flame, and the wind is blowing hard. Let us hold it steady. Let us learn. Let us survive. The ghosts of the past are waiting to see what we do next. Don't let them down.